We all have a default personality mode, a natural strength so built in that we rarely even notice we're using it. Today, we're unpacking our dominant personality trait and exploring how to harness its effortless flow.
Kent, what is on your mind?
I'm thinking of books, and I'm thinking I've possibly shared this one before, but I don't care. That's how important this is to me.
I'm at the edge of my seat.
I am very pro shorter books. I've read so many good short books. We've read so many good shorter books.
Yeah.
You know, a great book can be accomplished in 200 pages or less, and I guess more realistically, 300 pages or less. So I just want to say I'm thinking a lot about books over 300 pages, and they need to be really, really, really good to be over 300 pages. And it's so wild to read a book that's like 550 pages, and it's just this meandering, mediocre thing. And I think that's what turns people off from reading.
Yeah.
We need more good short books.
Yeah, we do. We read a lot of books. And you know, it's interesting that you bring this up. We've been reading some classics, like we just finished Of Mice and Men, which we had both read in high school or college. It's like 126 pages. And it's a great American novel. It's brilliant. 126 pages.
Yeah.
Like, so efficient. But I think a lot of books now are being written, in fact, to be optioned for TV series. So I have a feeling they kind of meander because they're trying to fill up a lot of space.
Yep. Make a series out of it.
So I'm with you. Short books. We're all about short books.
Last month, we talked about personality in general, and we had a lot of interest in that series, which I'm very excited about because we're big believers that the more you know yourself, the more you can live a fulfilled, what we call no vacation required life. And people were so interested in those 4 process pairings we talked about: T and F, S and N, J and P, and of course, I and E. So we decided that we were going to do another 4-pack going deeper into what this means. Now that we've discussed these 4 process pairings, how does it come together in personality? And as we said in the intro, you've got one, what we call default personality mode. It's your core strength, and it's pretty amazing how dominant that core strength is. And in fact, it's so dominant that you don't even know you're using it a lot of the time. And I think of my dominant strength, which is intuition. And it's very strange because if I'm in the zone and just kind of doing life at its best and not stressed out, I can very easily tap into it in a way, as we said, where I don't even know it. And what's interesting is the only time this really comes to mind is when I'm not using intuition and I can feel a natural progression in how I'm approaching something. If I'm getting too thinky about it or too particular about a topic, but I can be completely in flow when I'm relying on intuition. And it's very strange to think of that knowingness. Well, you see this, Kanan, in action because we're together all the time and working together and experiencing things together. And it's particularly interesting to think about the experience of people witnessing me in my dominant strength, intuition. There's just a flow and a knowingness.
Yeah.
Where people will be like, how did you know that? That's exactly right. That's exactly what I should do. What's your experience?
Yeah. Well,
seeing this?
the term is a little chuggy, but we call it a superpower because it can feel like that, especially to other people witnessing you really setting into your dominant personality trait. For me, experiencing that in you, it feels like you have this natural ability to see around corners or to see multiple potentialities at once in a way that feels very natural. And you'll say, oh, well, we should consider X and such because Y, Z, and 1 and 2 could happen. And it will feel to me like, how is it possible that you can even know that? But more to your question, Kent, how do you do that so fast? Like, I might get to some of that myself, but it would take me a lot of time, a lot of effort to get there in a way that for you, because you are so settled into your dominant trait and so comfortable in that, it really does feel like just second nature.
In everything we've done in our personal lives and as sought after business and career development consultants, we've learned one consistent thing. Most people just don't know themselves. NoVacationRequired.com is where we talk about how you too can build a life that you don't need a break from, and how it all starts with knowing yourself. There you'll find all of our podcast episodes, information on services, and the scoop on us. And to really raise the bar, we model this as a couple to show that a relationship doesn't have to be a compromise or a counterproductive union. When two people are each doing their own work, the heightened connection becomes a shortcut to building a no vacation required life. Okay, so the dominant personality position, we really kind of overemphasize how predominant this is in people. It is so predominant that the auxiliary and tertiary and inferior that we're going to talk about in subsequent weeks can be much, much lower in power and prevalence. Like the gap between position 1, dominant, and position 2, auxiliary, in a lot of people can be really, really big. And this is another kind of advertisement for getting to know yourself and getting to know your personality, because simply by knowing your personality, knowing your stack, as Kanan and I call this, your stack, dominant, auxiliary, tertiary, inferior, you already have this edge where then you're aware of how your personality works and you want to have these 4 positions in sync. So just to go way into the weeds, if you haven't listened to the last 4-pack on personality, please do. But just a moment of what all that was for. The I and the E, introversion and extroversion, and the J and the P, judging and perceiving, those 2 pairs of the 4 simply determine the positioning and how your core personality qualities are used.
Right.
The other 2 pairings, sensing and intuition and thinking and feeling, those 4 make up your stack, as we call it, your personality order. 1 is dominant, 1 is auxiliary, 1 is tertiary, 1 is inferior. And this is why in the last pack of podcasts, we talked a lot about how there's all these misconceptions about personality, because we all have degrees of all of these things, particularly the sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling. We are not all one thing. But I want to say that the dominant function is the function that unfolds first in your growth and development. And in most people, it begins to develop in, early childhood, and by teen years, and certainly by early adulthood, it's quite well developed. It's as natural gets. People wonder a lot about what this position feels like. Would you say, Canon, it's accurate to talk about it like it's truly like swimming downstream, as we discussed about in the last segment? Like when I'm in that zone with my dominant, with my intuition, and I don't have things fettering it, it feels completely natural.
Yeah, I think swimming downstream with the strong current at your back is a good way of putting it, because it does feel very flow state. In fact, it's kind of funny to think about how it feels, because I would say when you're really in your dominant without stress, because that can really complicate things, it may actually not feel like anything at all because it is such a natural state.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so you may not even recognize that. It's sort of the absence of turbulence or the absence of blocks, which is sort of a hard thing to recognize until you don't have it. And then you're like, oh God, why is this so hard for me?
Yes. It's weird to also talk about this series in the way we are. 1 week dominant. Next week we'll talk auxiliary, then tertiary, then inferior. Because in a way, we need to be talking about all of these things together, because the more you know about particularly your tertiary and inferior, the more sense your dominant makes.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know where you're least successful, your tertiary and inferior traits. So it's a good reminder, or a good way to know how to get back where you're more successful, predominantly in your dominant and in your auxiliary.
Yeah. And would you say, because we're always talking about, extolling the virtues of knowing yourself and your personality, it's essentially the whole point of this podcast. Would you say, Kent, that if you have not experienced that sense of pure flow, that freedom, that complete lack of blockades in your day and in the way you move through the world, that would be a good indicator that you are not operating in type?
100%.
Like that's a good way to look at your life and say, okay, have I experienced that? If I haven't, I need to figure out my type, and I need to, that I'm likely not operating in type.
Yeah, or you're so stressed out and out of whack that you're operating from one of your lesser dominant personality characteristics.
Thanks for listening. We'd be honored if you'd subscribe, like, and share. It means the world to us.
I just read the funniest thing on this. Oh yeah, we're reading funny things on personality because we're personality geeks. But it's funny, like if your dominant trait is well-oiled, it is hard for you to see that the world doesn't see everything in the same way you see it.
Oh yeah.
So you can kind of, it's that thing where you can kind of, and I guess how cool you are, how much couth you bring shows how much like grace you bring, and hopefully you bring a lot of grace, but you can have this idea like, oh, how does this person see the world this way? You just have such a certainty when you're in your pocket. And something we're going to get into in yet another series is you want these things in balance. You want this knowledge that I'm talking about. You want to be able to say, like, when I'm in my dominant intuitive mode,
yeah,
before I'm matured into knowing my personality and how to put it forth and how to use it to serve me. And of course, Kanan, you had the same experience. You can be a little clumsy with it. But as you know your personality and you want to keep it in balance, of course, always leading with your dominant personality strength. You know, for instance, when you're playing your dominant too much, because you don't want to be a know-it-all or a bully. So one of the big things we wanted to talk about is this isn't just about, we want you to know your dominant personality characteristic. It's about what happens after that, what it looks like when you have that knowledge, and then you're using it to your greatest benefit. I know, Kanan, you wanted to say some stuff about what that looks like in balance.
Well, I actually think of what you're saying is the little bit of a trope here with like a immature superhero who has a skill but doesn't know how to harness it. And so maybe you have the ability to set things on fire, and as a teenager you're just getting angry and setting lots of things on fire accidentally, and it's like, yeah, you have a superpower, but you're accidentally setting things on fire. It's no good. When you know what your dominant strength is, when you know you can set things on fire and how to do that with focus and intentionality, you can really put that to good use. So it really is the same, as silly as that metaphor is, it's the same with your dominant personality strength. You can go your whole life without knowing what it is, and it can serve you in a lot of ways, but it can also kind of work against you if you're not aware of what's happening. To your point, Kent, you can be so comfortable in your own dominant personality strength that you can think the entire world sees everything in that exact same way and operates in the same way that you do.
Yeah.
Because you can't get out of your own head. But when you know your personality strengths, when you know your dominant strength, you can really harness it. And you can bring balance to it. You can really have that intentionality that makes it work for you in the most effective way possible, and allows you to show up in different situations in really effective, embodied, intentional ways. And then it is a bona fide superpower.
Yeah, I want to say too, before we close out this segment, listening to you made me realize we skipped an important component. And there's so many important things that we've already decided.
We're always going to do that.
Yes. But the beauty about your dominant strength is it's also informed by that EI pairing, extroverted or introverted. Which do you prefer, extroversion or introversion? So your dominant strength is, of course, going to live in the space of either extroversion or introversion, whichever one of those is your preference. So yeah, Kanan, not only do you have this great dominant strength that you could get very clumsy with and be immature with, it is backed by your preference for either introversion or extroversion. So it can literally become, as we say these days, your whole personality, because there's so much power there, because it's sitting in your extroversion or your introversion, which gives it that extra boost, importance, and meaning.
Yeah.
But also the ability for you to get, and we talk a lot about this with our Viewfinder product, to get so into your own primary strength that it actually starts to work against you. And in stress, a first level stress indicator, and we really get into this with our Viewfinder product, you can become so reliant on your dominant strength that you kind of can become unbearable. Okay, I've got something from the Mailbag, something that came in during our last 4-pack.
Oh, I love Mailbag.
Yep, very common question that we get, and This question feels so 2000s, so like Strength Finder.
Oh my gosh, she just made me think of the Black Eyed Peas. This is so 2000 and late.
But it's a great question. Is it better to focus on my weaknesses or just to lean into my strengths?
Oh, that is so 2000 and late.
Go Kanan. Go Kanan. I know you have a big answer to this question.
Yeah, we have a very specific, clear take on this, and it is that you should always lean into your strengths. Focus on your strengths, focus on what you are naturally good at, and allow that to lift you up. So instead of like trying to make your weaknesses stronger, make your strengths stronger and allow that to compensate for the areas where you have some weakness.
I think
it really is simple, isn't it?
As we tell clients, only view your weaknesses through the lens of your strengths. Only attempt to, quote, improve your weaknesses via your strengths, because that's the only way and the best way to do it.